Alright, Abels Arc. A perceptual phenomenon that is the lower dimensional, tangible form of the imaginary space consciousness of the higher dimensional being, Udu. Essentially, it's Udu given form. It is a perceptual phenomenon in the same way that the Gnosis are, but also a completely different form of existence. Abels Arc observed Albedo's consciousness during the fall of Old Miltia. It later took in the Zohar as a connection point in order to more steadily observe the lower dimension. After Shion's awakening, the Arc's imaginary space transformation accelerated, reflecting the consciousness of mankind. Detecting the operation of Zarathustra, an anti-higher dimensional system constructed ages ago, it took the planet Mictum into itself. This action was not taken in an attempt to destroy Zarathustra, it was purely trying to observe the changes in the consciousness of the lower dimension. That's all Udu ever seems to do, is observe and mourn from time to time. There's something on Asher? Something new on Asher? It was equipped with Urdekaiser's generator for a while. As it escaped from Zarathustra, the Asher restarted itself through this generator, despite having lost its vessel of Anima. The generator is also outfitted with a self-destruct device to keep its secret protected. Well, that's nice. But yeah, it had the generator, which is why it was able to get out at the end. All right, the Judah, that's Kevin's unit. I guess I'll read the whole thing. It's Kevin's unit. It is equipped with 2 knives that can directly access the UMN's physical phenomena structure in order to cut any material presence in 2, making it practically impossible to defend against. The only countermeasure is to access the UMN structure in the same way as Kevin and to block it over there. However, that is only possible for those limited few with that ability, in other words, those qualified to pilot ES units, which happens to be our party, so we're able to win. Consequently, one can see battles between ESs less as involving direct contact between physical phenomena, the material world, and more as essentially attacking and defending in the world of consciousness, the UMN. We also have an update for Inquisitors here. Right, we know all that. All of this is the same, no? I guess I'll read the bottom part, hoping it's new. It retains 2 sets of hierarchical ranks, one for its activities as a military group, and another for within Armis. Special ranks within Armis include Chief Inquisitor, Chief Soldier Priest, and High Priest. It holds close ties with the Department of Sacraments, which carries out research on relics. Right, didn't we go over all this? I feel like we did with Inquisitors. Alright, Gnosis. We should have a lot of information about Gnosis, but I feel like we have seen a lot of it. The word Gnosis refers to all forms of existence in imaginary space. So, there we go. All things not just humans have an imaginary space component, so things like the Gnosis planet, which appears in the story, also exist. In imaginary space, all consciousness is a state of full awareness, allowing things like another person's animosity, for example, to be directly experienced. If a human comes into contact with the fear held by imaginary space and chooses to escape or reject it, he or she is gnosified. At first, it would appear that they act in groups, but each one moves with its own consciousness of rejection, dissipation, and proliferation. They can be seen as wandering in search of a kind of salvation. One could say that this consciousness of rejection and dissipation is putting all of space in peril. Indeed it is. Wilhelm is attempting to concentrate all of this, the negative consciousness of man, into Zarathustra, and to awaken the eternal recurrence in order to return once again to the world mankind hoped for, by hitting the reset button. Next up we have the 13th key. The words Telos uttered to Cosmos. It is believed she used the words in reference to a key that is indispensable to Wilhelm's mission. The 13th key related to the awakening of the 12 vessels of Anima and the final stage of Mary's revival. Wasn't that the pendant? I feel like that was the pendant. Alright, the compass of order and chaos. It uses a plate modeled after the Zohar discovered at Lake Turkana, set in a stone tablet on top of a base. The Compass of Order and Chaos has the ability to display the flow of consciousness in the entire universe through Zarathustra, acting as the terminal point on Mictum. Wilhelm used the Compass of Order and Chaos to transmit the data collected by program Kanan to Zarathustra. Remember that Kanan was also out there observing. Oh wow, we have a lot here. Alright, Zarathustra. A device created by people in ancient times. The giant compass-like device is something like a control terminal. The main body is actually the crystalline structures that spread out beneath the surface of Mictum. Xion's pendant, which has the same structure, is its control key. It was originally created with the goal of invading the world of God, but Wilhelm, who has the role of protector of lower dimensional space, bringing lower dimensional space to its conclusion, added its functionality as an eternal recurrence device. So they're kind of implying that it wasn't Mary or Chaos that built Zarathustra, and that was the impression that the guy gave. In order to set off eternal recurrence, one must have control over the power of God, the power of Chaos. Wait, Chaos has the power of God? They mean Anima, right? Because Mary has the other half of the power of God, Animus. The awakening of each Anima, as well as the guidance of Mary, who shares an emotional bond with Chaos, has all been for this purpose. An observation, as observation terminals for God, Abel and the Arc, i.e. Udu, need to be sealed in lower dimensional space. Consequently, the ability to induce them towards Zarathustra has also been added. So they had to bring Abel in and Abel's Arc in order to get eternal recurrence to happen as well. Then we have Testament. Right. No, I think this is new. By controlling physical phenomena, they also act directly upon the perception of those in normal space. You could see them as if they were actually there, even though your retinas would not be receiving any photons. Since they act directly upon the perception of their target, they will not appear in photographs or videos that rely on the action of photons, though they can act on these devices to appear in them. Once long ago, a group of people that reacted purely to Chaos's anima power, whether these were previous incarnations of Jin, Virgil, and Voyager, or the consciousness of other people entirely, is unclear, guided the world to destruction. So, Jin, Virgil, Voyager, apparently they could have all been testaments. I don't remember any offer to Jin, though. To form an anti-existence to these people who reacted purely to the power of anima, the failsafe of the universe, the consciousness of people were controlled and made to enter opposed phase, resulting in the birth of the Testaments. Wilhelm does not need to shift everyone into opposed phase in order to achieve his goal. Once the mass had reached a certain critical mass, everything else will have their phases shifted in a chain reaction. The current Testaments are that certain critical mass. Wilhelm has forged a certain pact with the Testaments. This serves not just to have them do whatever he wishes, but also to supplement Wilhelm's temporal recurrence ability, just as the failsafe needs the power of anima to work. Wilhelm also needs the power of the opposed phase anima. Mary will serve as the fuse to ignite that power. The rendezvous, which Virgil shared with Fabronia, was everything to his existence. He wanted to feel that moment forever. He is who he is today thanks to Fabronia's death. This is what he believed. Wilhelm presented Virgil with that eternal time. He also presented Albedo with the ability to make his original wish come true. On the surface, Albedo appeared to act only on the desire to destroy, but this was a form of separation anxiety. Essentially, his real desire was to integrate with Junior. Junior's destiny was to be used as a pawn in Dimitri's elimination of Udu. One wonders if Albedo knew that all along. Albedo's desire to unite with Junior was a form of protective consciousness in action. With the power of a testament, he could face off against Dimitri to protect Junior and, ultimately, realize his original goal of sharing the consciousness with Junior and gaining eternal rest. This is what Wilhelm presented to him, and that is what made him act. Proto Merkaba. Right, we know all that. It can take in Gnosis, right, convert them to energy. Joachim, right, yeah, once again. I feel like there's nothing new here. Maybe they're just trying to highlight it? Originally, it was planned to serve as the mothership of Proto Omega alongside the Song of Nephilim. After losing Sakura, however, Joachim used it as a plan to create Momo. Maybe that's the new part. Feels like that is. Alright, Song of Nephilim. Yeah, it's a giant inverted pyramid that's insanely tall. The Song of Nephilim plays a song, a wavelength, which cannot be heard by normal human ears. The song is said to attract the Gnosis. Realians can hear it, though. The Song of Nephilim are the words of God that were recorded in the Y data, one of the relics. A man named Grimoire Verum analyzed these words in order to create the program known as Lemegeton. Joachim reconstructed a fragmented version of this program as part of the Udu system. The wavelengths it emitted included the word Nephilim in its human audible range, so he named the system the Song of Nephilim. The Song of Nephilim was used in the Miltian conflict 15 years ago. However, as it had not been tuned by Joachim, its power was insufficient to bring the Zohar into operation. The song itself does not have the power to summon the Gnosis. The Gnosis appears simply because a door has been opened onto imaginary space as a result of Udu activating in response to people who have made fragmentary contact with it through the song. In fact, the Gnosis that appeared around Milsha were actually caused by a fearful and isolated young Shion linking with Udu and bringing the Zohar into operation. It's all Shion's fault. Proto Omega, one of the relics of God. It was smuggled onto Milsha upon the destruction of Mictum. Afterwards, it was subjected to repeated linkage operational tests with the original Zohar, then deployed to intercept Federation forces during the first and second Miltian descent operations. It was set to be deployed in the third descent operation as well, but once the Gnosis appeared, it was left on at the hangar in the confusion. It was recovered by Dmitry Yuriev after Milsha's destruction and underwent final refurbishment based on the Y data. The Y data has a lot of information in it, just pretty much everything you want. Pendant. It appears to have a pink object buried inside of it, making it no ordinary crystal. This object is a petal from a flower Kevin raised together with Shion as a child. He sealed it into his mother's memento as a cherished memory of his time with Shion. One can sense the strength of Kevin's feelings for Shion from this. So, in fact, we are to assume that teenage Kevin fell in love with little girl Shion, and he loved that pendant, and so he stuck a piece of the flower in there. That's what we're going with. Alright, Maiden of Mary. A past life of Shion. From the term's nuances, it can be guessed that she played some kind of supporting role in the abilities of Mary. It is thought that Shion's affinity with the Zohar doesn't originate from the blood she inherited from her mother Aoi, as much as it is a peculiarity of Shion herself, from the emotional bond she shared with Mary during the Lost Jerusalem era. Joshua. We're talking about the unit here. It is not installed with the Vessel of Anima, but instead operates on an energy supply received directly from Wilhelm himself, because Wilhelm has the power. While other ESs were constructed based upon data from the Relics of God, the Joshua is a brand new craft constructed by Wilhelm himself. The Joshua can therefore be called half of Wilhelm's body. When operating as a mobile weapon, its combat power far exceeds that of an ES, but it also carries a weak point. When operating as Zarathustra's control system, its functionality and combat power are greatly restricted. So, it's powered by Wilhelm himself, and the fact that they're calling it half of Wilhelm's body here makes me wonder what the half of Chaos's body and the half of Mary's body that were killed in the Lost Jerusalem era. Once again, no information. Alright, Lemegeton is, well, a Zohar control program. Are you going to give me any information about this one? Not really. Oh, here we go. In fact, Lemegeton is part of the ancient words that were left behind by a certain man. Words that Grimoire analyzed and made into a program. The man who left behind these words several thousand years ago is Chaos. Chaos left the words of Lemegeton behind. Right, the Y data. It's got everything you need in it. It's a record of the words of God. It's also the location of Old Milsha. It's also the way into Old Miltia, I should say. It's also the plans for ESs. It's a lot of things. Yeah, the UMN transport code for Old Miltia's in there. Right, we went through all that. It's got a lot of things. That resulted in the data being leaked to outside sources, setting off the space-time anomaly in motion space. That's old news. Is there anything new here? I guess this is new. In actuality, the data is a record of the words of God as inscribed by a person in ancient times. Joachim's analysis of these words was what enabled him to produce a multitude of research findings. So, I guess that's the new part, is that it's basically Chaos's words. And that is what we can view in the database, and that is a lot of information, although I wouldn't necessarily say anything all that new, except for, at least new for me, except for the part where they said that Chaos gave up half his body and Mary Magdalene gave up half her body, which apparently could just be a euphemism, considering that the Joshua is half of Wilhelm's body. But that is what I wanted to show you when it comes to opening up a previous save that has cleared game data on it. Now, with that done, I'm going to go back to the main menu and we will continue from there.